Hello. In this video, I'm going to provide an overview of Dataverse long-term retention. Dataverse long-term retention is designed to reduce database storage capacity while at the same time retain data to adhere to your regulatory or compliance requirements. Retained data is typically data that is historic, will never change, and be referenced on rare occasions. Long-term retention entails the creation of one or more retention policies on any standard or custom table. A policy is an asynchronous process job that runs in the background and only when there is low activity in the system. In the illustration at the right, there are 4 steps to the process. First, the appropriate records in the source Dataverse table are marked for archive. Second, records marked for archive are copied to Dataverse cold storage, also known as managed lake storage. Third, once all marked records have been copied, a reconciliation process runs to validate that data has copied successfully. And then finally, the rows successfully copied to cold storage are purged from database storage. On average, a 50% reduction in storage capacity should be observed. This means that, for example, if 100 meg of table data is archived, you should see a 50 meg reduction. Let's take a look at long-term retention. So we'll begin in the Power Platform Admin Center and point out a prerequisite for a Power Platform Dataverse environment must be a managed environment as shown here. So in order to use the long-term retention feature, the Dataverse environment must be managed. So next, let's take a look. I've created a custom table called vehicles and populated that table with 100 records. So this would be a typical table that might be used to track a fleet of vehicles, and we're going to set up a retention policy on this table that specifically moves those vehicle records that are older than 2019 to long-term retention. So to activate or configure long-term retention on this table, we open up Properties, and in the Advanced options, check the Enabled Long-Term Retention checkbox. That enables long-term retention now on this vehicles table. Next, we have to configure a view that has the appropriate filter to attach to the retention policy. So in other words, what records need to be filtered on this table to move to long-term retention. So we'll open up Views, and again I have a view defined Old Vehicles, and we'll open that up and in essence show you that there's been a filter added to this view to edit out or filter out those vehicle records that are 2019. Then the last process is to actually define the retention policy, which I've done here. It's just simply called Vehicle Retention. And we'll take a look at first the policy details. So in essence, you just give the policy a name, and in this case it's called Vehicle Retention, and associate as the criteria which view should be used to apply the filter to be used with long-term retention. So in this case, the old vehicles view. Then, since this has already been run, it shows the date and time that the policy was actually run. But when you create this, you can specify the frequency on which the policy runs. So it could run daily, monthly, whatever your choosing is here. Now again, since this policy has already been run, we can also look at the history and see the results. So as shown here, there were 20 records moved from or moved to long-term retention storage. And as you recall, I had first created the vehicles table with 100 rows. So 20 of those rows have now moved to long-term retention. So let's take a look at, I've created a simple model-driven app on the vehicles table. And as you can see, this is the active list of vehicles, and it shows a row count of 80. That means that the remaining 20 have been moved to long-term retention. And so from within this model-driven app, I can simply change the filter and specify that I want to view data that is the retained data versus the live data that it's currently showing. So I'll just select the change to retained data, confirm that, apply the filter, and now the screen will refresh, showing those 20 records that are in long-term retention. And sure enough, the row count is 20. And the year of each vehicle is 2019. So that's the process in terms of how long-term retention works. There are a number of resources in Microsoft Learn for long-term retention, and I encourage you to review them. These include detailed configuration instructions, how to monitor the storage, and ways to report on long-term retention data. There's also a fast-track Tech Talk series that covers this subject in depth across both Dynamics 365 customer engagement apps and finance and operations apps. Thank you very much.